The Inland Revenue Division is pleased to inform taxpayers that returns can now be filed online for corporation tax, excise tax, tax for tobacco manufacturers and distillers, personal income tax, and VAT. The tax e-filing system is yet another means by which taxpayers can voluntarily meet their obligation under the law. Now, let's focus on how e-filing systems can be accessed, as Mr. Ian Michael Anthony demonstrates.
In order for the taxpayer to use the tax e-filing system, they first would have to apply for an e-user account. That is done by accessing the website eservices.gov.dm. This is the page that will be displayed once the site has been accessed, and it's a matter of simply clicking register user. A form is presented which has to be completed, and we'll go through the steps of actually doing the form, including the taxpayer's name, then the surname, the date of birth. All of those fields are mandatory. Just choose the year and the day. Once that is done, the social security is there, but it's not a mandatory field, so we can skip it, as well as the taxpayer identification number that the Inland Revenue would have assigned the taxpayer. We go ahead to complete the address. And the city, the system, once you bring in, start to type in, you will actually see the city being displayed, so it's just a matter of selecting it from the list. The postal code is not a mandatory field, but the country is, so I must enter Dominica in that case. Again, it's a pre-filled list, so just to select it from the list. I must give an email address, because that is how the system works. An email address has to be sent to me. An email has to be sent to me, to verify certain information and then to get messages from the system as well. And I have to include a telephone number. A key factor of this system is the requirement for identification. And it's simply because when the e-user account is set up, the taxpayer is going to have access to a tax account. And Inland Revenue needs to be sure at the end of the day, if Michael Anthony applied for the e-user account, when access is given, it is to the tax account of Michael Anthony. Because don't forget, Michael Anthony is not going to file on the system using that information. So I'm going to use my driver's license as the piece of ID. I need to enter a number, but the number is not, it can be any number, so I can just put 111 and use that. The next thing I do is click browse, select the scanned copy of the ID where it is located, and have it uploaded into the system. Once I have done that, the next thing I need to do is choose a password, and my password has to be between 6 and 20 characters, and it must include a letter and at least 1 digit. So I'm going to enter a password now. And the next thing I do is there's this capture code that I have to enter onto the system. That is for the purpose of verifying as a human being actually applying for the account. Once I've done that, I agree with the terms and conditions, and I simply click the request button. It asks me if I really want to request a new user account. I say yes, just by clicking OK. And the message I get is that the request was successfully received. What happens from there is that I will get an email at the email address that I just gave, asking me to confirm my email address for the system before the process can continue. So I need now to just sign in into that email account. Once I have signed in, so what I should be looking for is an email from the tax filing system. Now notice I'm using an account at live.com. what happens in those instances is that the user should check their junk mail as well, because it may not necessarily go to the inbox. And so just by clicking, I can see an email from etaxdominica.gov.dm. If the subject tax e-filing system request confirmation is needed. So I open that email and it addresses me, dear Michael Anthony, we've just received your request to become an user of the tax e-filing system, and basically asking me to click on the link to confirm that the email address is correct. So I just do that. Right. Your email was successfully confirmed. What that means from then on is that an IRD officer is now able to see my application details, go through the process of approving my e-user account. We need to remind taxpayers, however, that whilst they would have used the tax e-filing system to file their returns, it is important that records are kept. Remember that the filing of the return is sort of the last part in the chain, so that records have to be kept, because it is those records that will assist the taxpayer in completing the tax return. So now that we can see that I am actually now logged in as an e-user into the tax e-filing system, on the left hand side of the screen you will see the various menu options that are available to e-users and taxpayers. Now what we're going to demonstrate is the actual filing of a VAT return. The first thing I will do is I will click the button Fill Declaration. It brings up the screen for me where I select, first of all, that I'm going to file a VAT return. It automatically refreshes, and I have to select the tax period for which I'm filing. Remember that the VAT returns are due once every month. So I'm going to file a tax return for January 2014. I select that, again automatic refresh, and I click Fill New. At that point in time, what the system does is that it calls up information from Inland Revenue's tax database that will bring up my VAT return for January 2014, populated with my name, address, account number. So I did not enter all of those details. As you can see, my name is here, my address, my VAT number, the period, everything is there. What I need to do now is enter the figures. What the e-filing has done is made that process of filing a return much easier, in the sense that I will just have to put in my sales information. I will put in the VAT that I paid locally, and once I have done that, the system will take care of the calculation. So I'm going to put in my standard supplies, and as always, it is VAT inclusive. I just tab and go to the next field. The gray lines are what the taxpayer will enter figures on. The purple lines, the system will do the calculation. In my case, I only have standard duty supplies, so I am only interested in completing line 100. Then the next thing for me, I have no imports for the month in question, so I do not need to complete line 200. However, I did have some local taxable supplies, and I will put in the figure on line 210. And move on to the next field, which is the VAT paid to the Controller of Customs, but I didn't import anything, so nothing goes there. I paid VAT on my local purchases, and say I paid $575. I'm going to enter that into the system and tab. From there, I need not do anything else, because the system will take care of all the calculations for me. To do that, I simply click the exclamation mark that says validate. The system will do the checks and balances in the background and return all the figures. And as you can see, I entered 150,000 as my standard rated supplies. The system says how much VAT is due, 19,565.22. It brings the total here, so I don't have to carry anything down. I put in my local purchases, 25,000. Notice it totaled it for me as well. I claimed my VAT and I paid the 575, it totaled it as well. And it works out the difference between the 19,000 and the 575. And so the VAT payable for the month of January for me is 18,990.22. Again, in the e-filing environment, the taxpayer just simply put in a few of the required figures, and the system does this. The VAT return does not require me to attach any documents to it. It's simply a one-page statement of my affairs for the month in question. And so from this point, all I need to do now is just to click the submit button. Once I would have done that, the system will ask me to verify, to certify that the information I just gave is true and correct. I do that by just clicking in the box and I click submit the document. Once I do that, my return has actually been submitted to Inland Revenue and I get a message, document was sent for processing. Do not forget to check processing result. And with that, I would have simply gone into the system and submitted the VAT return.
We've just completed filing the VAT return using the tax e-filing system, and the question could be asked, what happens next? And the answer is very simple. What will happen is that an IRD officer will access the IRD database, be able to retrieve the information on that VAT return, review the figures, and from there on create the assessment. Once that assessment has been created, the taxpayer will receive an email notifying them that the assessment has been done, and they will also get an attachment. They can also view the information within the tax e-filing system itself, where they will see not only what they submitted, but what we assess them on as Inland Revenue. That in itself has actually speeded up a number of processes.
It is expected that tax e-filing system will promote efficiency, quality, and transparency in public service delivery.